be in California the entire week, so I'm stealing that.
We might as well get you while we can.
That's right. How's everybody doing? Everybody have a good weekend?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so it's the beginning of fourth quarter. Did you know that, Jake? October 3rd, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I was thinking about this foundation that we often talk about. Tomorrow I speak where they're doing basically a little summit for a Century 21 down in San Diego, Century 21 Award. I don't know if you know them, but actually they're probably the third or fourth largest company in the country, but there'll be, I don't know, a couple hundred people there, but they've got like 1,000 agents in California doing their thing. And so I'm going to speak there tomorrow. But, you know, I was thinking about like what I'm speaking about, like, right, is I'm thinking, you know, they want to, of course, talk about market conditions and all the different challenges and whatnot. But I was just thinking that at the end of the day, when I remember years ago, I was sitting in a meeting in the boardroom and I said, and I remember Gretchen was there, Rick Davidson was there, Sam was there, Jeremy, John may have been on the phone. I don't know. There was a number of leaders, and I said, hey, let me just ask you a question. If the market's going down, what's the answer? Oh, you need a prospect. If the market's going up, Aiden, what do you think the answer is? That's my whole point. And so the whole point is that they wanted to like do all these assessments of where different things were or where the market was going, what it was happening. And I'm not opposed to certainly looking at what's going on. I mean, of course, that's a smart thing to do. Look around you and say, okay, hey, what's happening? But in the process of that, what I found is that people still forget that the basics of this business still exist. And I'm not going to go through this whole foundation that we talked about, but I just want these first two things, purpose, and sometimes I'll put other words up there like desire. You know, sometimes people they're big why or why they do what they do. But you know, there may be other words that we could put up there, but I just your purpose. And then the second line here that we always talk about on 1 and 2 is we talk about goals, we talk about plans, and we talk about a schedule. And one of the things that I'm certain of is that if I made another list of what every agent, if I'm Amy, I'd be saying, hey, Amy, with your team, or if I'm an individual agent, these are the things. You know, you need to know what someone wants. You need to know why they want it. You need to know their goals, their plan, and how they're going to be accountable. And I've said this to like the Rick Rubies and others and Nick over the years, and that every single agent should know those things. What do I want? Why do I want it? What's my goals to get there so that I can have what I want, my plan and how am I going to be held accountable? Another well, specifically here, the schedule, right? How am I going to be held accountable to my schedule? So when you start looking at that, and sometimes I'll combine what and why. What do I want? Why do I want it? The goals, the plan, schedule. Sometimes they'll even separate accountability, but that's not really the point. Is that like in this quarter, you should know that. So if I come over here and go, hey man, what's my purpose? What are my goals, my plan, my schedule? And again, over here, how am I going to be held accountable? Well, all of those are the factors of the things that you need to achieve in fourth quarter. So for me, I just want to point out that if it's for fourth quarter, and I know that we can talk about business planning for 2023 and we can focus on lots of things, but just that if I was to go to just a little mini business plan, if we could all do that really quick, this is what I wanted to spend some time with you today doing, is number one, I'm just curious, how many deals are you going to close? I mean, write this out, put it in your phone. I don't care where you put it, but how many deals are you going to close in fourth quarter? All right. Number two, how many listings will you take in fourth quarter? Pretty simple questions, right? Number three, how many active buyers? So active buyers will you have? Meaning that by the next 90 days, how many active buyers are you going to be working with? 2, 3, 4, 5. And an active buyer to me is that they're going to put an offer in within 30 days. And if they're going to put an offer in with 30 days, to me, that's considered an active buyer. Right. Number 4. Then once I establish that, of course, I want to know how much money I'm going to make. And these aren't in any particular order, but just think about this. How many deals am I do? How much money am I going to earn? How many listings will I take? How many active buyers will I be working with in the next 30 days or less? Now you could add in here a 5th, and I maybe got ahead of myself. We'll put it as number 5, but let's just put how many deals will you put under contract? Because some of them won't close because you'll put some deals under contract in December. So if I put number of deals under contract, how many closed, how many are contract, how many taken, how many active buyers. Okay, now how much money am I going to earn? Man, you'd be ahead of the game if you just knew those 4 or 5 things in there. Most people don't even know that. They don't know how many deals they're going to do, how many listings they'll take, how many buyers they'll put under contract, how much money they're going to earn, how many buyers will they be working with in the next 90 days. And then I start going over here to say, okay, well, now let's go to number 6 on this list. Let's just label this whole thing prospecting. And under prospecting or lead generation, just put some A's here. Number A, just talk about number 1, how many hours are you going to spend prospecting for the next 90 days? Is it 2 hours a day? We average about 20 work days, even in holiday months where there's a lot of holidays, even in like a July and whatnot, 20 work days per month. So how many hours are you going to prospect? Number 2 or B. By the way, my wife gave me, Amy, you'll appreciate this because she loves this natural based pre-workout. I haven't taken a pre-workout, Nick, in 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's gonna make you feel good in the morning.
But I am like doing almost nothing. I'm sitting here sweating. Like, why am I sweating?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Can I
oh,
get
yeah.
some of that?
She takes Vega pre-workout, the plant-based pre-workout. So
Where do you get that?
you can get it anywhere. I mean, it's a natural deal.
Yeah,
It's not
they do
it's
that.
not like synthetic. You can get it at Whole Foods, you can get it anywhere. In fact, what was funny is, Aiden, here we go. So I wanted to stop getting, because I'm not kidding you, we have jars about the size of this. And it's like a food storage. There is like 40 of them or 50 of them. And because she couldn't get Amazon to stop delivering it, because she put it on a monthly, and it just kept coming and coming and coming. So ask her about her pre-workout. Say, do you by chance have a bottle of pre-workout to spare? You should say that to her, Amy. I've heard that you're hoarding all of it.
Wow.
So, all right, prospecting, okay, hours prospected, contacts. And I always love this, man. I mean, just think about this. If I'm going to make 30 contacts a day times probably about 60 days. Okay, well, I'm going to make 1,800 contacts. I mean, guys, we did this a few days ago, but you go down to the work days and what happens. I mean, if you set an appointment 1 every day, right? And then let's go to C, right? So hours, contacts, now appointments set. How many appointments will you set this rest of this year? Next 90 days, how many appointments are you going to set? And number D, of course, is how many will you actually attend? Right? How many appointments will you attend? And if you wanted to, you could break it up to sellers and to buyers if you wanted to. If you want to. I'm not necessarily overly concerned, because the whole point is how many appointments will you set or attend? I'm not really worried whether it's a buyer or sell, but you may want to divide it up. I used to. All right. And then, of course, how many will I attend? And then E would be how many in so many words will I take? And the take would be how many buyer brokers and how many listings taken. Right. That's what I'm looking for. And so what's going to happen for you over the next 90 days? I was listening to the book today, Ask and It Is Given by Esther Hicks. If you haven't read her book, she grew up in Colville, Utah, of all places, if you were to know. And she's world famous. She doesn't live here in Utah anymore. I don't know where she lives, but I know she doesn't live here. And in her book, Ask and It Is Given, and this is kind of, does anybody know about her at all? So she speaks to a body of spirits that she calls Abraham. And it is a slew and a body of, hello, April. A body of spirits, and she basically gets revelation coming in from them, and she just stands at the front of the stage. I mean, and she's really like the icon of new age thinking and whatnot. But But she even addresses, by the way, interesting enough, in the very beginnings of her book, she addresses Joseph Smith, of all people, for the Mormon Church, and she talks about these oracles that have come through time and history that have been able to basically commune with the other side. And that's kind of her opening thing in this book, where she talks about these people who have come through this world, who have been these oracles of connection to the other side. And anyway, it's a fascinating book. It really is. And sometimes when I don't tell anybody like what the source, because they'll read it and they don't realize that what she's saying is that she's getting all of this from the other side, if you would say. And anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you that. Why am I telling you that?
I don't know.
I know. Pre-workout. I'm going all over the place. No, I'm telling you that because her whole premise is that whatever your vibration is, right? The vibration you put out to this world in relationship to knowing what you want, the connection of your desire and the connection of your emotion, and bridging those two things together. That's the whole point, right? There's the thing I always say, and I didn't get it from her, is just the universe has been built to give you everything you desire. So all of a sudden you align your activity along with your passion and desire, your emotion, all of a sudden, man, some really good things happen. And that really is the sense of that book. But it's a fascinating book, and it's like a solid read. I love the book. All right. So I go to here, and then I'm also, well, I'm highly concerned. I always made it a whole separate label and line, which is over the next 90 days, which of course, Rick and Ruby and Nick and others and the whole company and Spiro and Jim and others. But what are you doing with your SOI? In the next 90 days, what are you doing? Well, let's just do some A, B, and C. If we're putting a little business plan for the next 90 days. All right, number A is how many people are you going to add into your SOI? You know, Saturday I was talking about an agent, many of you know him, Doug Carey, and it's fascinating how much business comes from his SOI today. Well, I remember years ago sitting down with Doug and saying, Doug, every day you should be adding at least 2 people to your sphere of influence, to your database, every single day. You're going to meet people through calling for sell by owners, expired, just listed, just sold, knocking doors. Will you go into stores, running an errand? Do you not find 2 people per day that you could add to your sphere? Well, I sat down with him. This is several years ago. I sat down with him and he said, you remember when you gave me that advice? I said, yes. He goes, he turns his laptop around. He goes, has a big pie chart. He said, look, I made $110,000 from these people this year, from just adding 2 people per day to my sphere. And he started tracking them. And because he would meet people that he's like, oh, wow, I kind of like you. And the whole point of people within your sphere, the most important asset that you guys will build in this game of real estate, how many people are you adding to your sphere? Okay, second, number B is what, let's just go through this. How many calls are you going to make? Number C, how many emails, meaning your campaign? D, how many well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but let's just do mailings. Okay. How many mailings will you make? How many emails will you do? How many calls will you make? At minimum 5 a day should be the minimum standard. And if I went down to E, I would say, okay, how many texts are you going to send / with a video? Right. I'm a huge proponent of this. I did a video this morning, driving down the road, putting it in my little thing. And I did a video for my mother saying good morning. Haven't seen her for a little bit. I'm just telling you, man, these texts / videos are important. And then I would just say F would be the client appreciation, which you're doing one with the pumpkin patch, or you have some other things planned, then great. But if I'm just looking at a basic plan, if I know how many deals and listings and active buyers and how much money and under contracts I'll make, this could probably be in a little better order, you know, as I'm doing it off the cuff. But if I went back over here and said, what am I going to do with my prospecting? Okay, what am I going to do with my SOI? All right, now let's go to number 8 over here. Number 8 for me is I'm going to look at this foundation over here, by the way. And if I went and put down 3, 4, and 5, and 6, let's just go up. Is my, what systems am I going to put in place? Number 5, what disciplines need to be there, right? What skill sets need to be there? And what do I need to do with my mindset? So I would build the rest of my my business plan. If I knew all this, then I'd go to 8 and say, okay, what am I going to do with my mindset? Things like that would be, what am I going to participate in? Right? So I know like a good example is Amy's going to Tony Robbins. That could be something. Elevate. What are you going to do to protect your mindset and elevate your mindset in the fourth quarter of this year? Right? Maybe it's attending how many morning meetings, a summit. How about coaching? Whatever it is, what are you going to do to improve, to elevate and increase the way in which you think, your philosophy, your beliefs, your emotions around those philosophies and those beliefs? All right. Number 9 then is, okay, what skills? What I have always done is I've picked 3 skills that I know that I need to master. So maybe it's, I need to master how to close. Maybe I need to master how to present. Maybe I need to master how to handle an objection, right? Those might be the 3 focuses in your role play or whatever. What is it that's preventing you and stopping you from setting appointments, taking listings, putting buyers under contract? What 3 skills could you focus on over the next 90 days? Say, I am going to master these 3 skills. That really made a difference when I know that there's only really 12 skills that I need to master in this business. What is it that I'm going to do in regards to this? Okay. And then number 10, right? Just coming over here. All right. Disciplines, meaning accountable. So I might have a separate agreement thing for this because I usually have kind of 10 points in my business plan. But you could come over here and say, okay, discipline. Are you going to do, and let's just put up here, an accountability contract of some sort. I'm going to be accountable to people. It's just like when I was talking not too long ago about the importance of April prospecting with people, because I know when I prospect with people, I'm more accountable. I just am. All right. So just, I know that however you choose to create this accountability, whether it's reporting to someone, I remember for years, I used to even have my computer up with the video rolling on Google Meetings, or whether it's FaceTime, whatever it is, I was actually making sure that I could see the other person prospecting. And I remember I taught that to Kenzie and all of her other recruiters that are like in California. When they're prospecting and calling, she has her computer up, the screen is going, they can watch her while she's prospecting, she can watch them while they're prospecting, and they're making calls. So again, just how are you going to remain accountable? And then the 10th is what system or strategy, right? You may know what it is. It could be your lead follow-up system. It could be the way in which you use a TC or work your transactions. But what system are you going to implement? You guys, this is about running a business. This is about finding the holes in your business and filling them. So you can see some of them are about activity. Some of them are about kind of setting the sail in the right direction of your business. But when you start looking at this, if you really knew what you wanted and why you want it, you have some clear goals, right? You may take some time to say, man, why am I going to do all this? Oh, you mean I want to do this? I want to pay off that. I want to go here. I want to buy this. I want this investment. Whatever it is, just know. But when I started with, and the story, I'll just finish with this. Time is it? I can't see that. Why that has so much glare on it? 8. Okay. So let me finish with this story. So years ago, and some of you have heard this, but years ago, I used to do these plans all the time, April. I'd make them quarterly, monthly, annually. And one year, I don't know, and this is over 20 years. It's over 20 years. It'd actually be like 22 years ago, probably that within a year of that. So about 20 plus years ago, I do another plan, but it's at the end of the year, and I do, Jim, this whole big plan, and I write this whole big thing out. Now, again, Jennifer is so kind and sweet, but she said something like this. She said, George, why do you write these big plans? And why do you do that when, why don't you just put something realistic? Well, Kelly, for some reason, man, that like set me into a whole different mode. And I didn't get mad at her at the time. It wasn't like, I didn't like snap back at her. I didn't get all angry about it, but it really set me back, because what would happen, Kelly, is I knew that I could take a single day and go, okay, I made my appointment. I made my contacts. I prospected my 3 hours today. And I'm like, see, if I take those 1 or 2 weeks that I do it and I add it all up, well, then this is how much money I should be doing. I should be doing 50 deals, 60 deals. And at the time it was like 80, I had 52 deals. That's right. Because I wanted to close a home a week. So it was 52 transactions that I wanted to close. And I remember she said it, and it set me on a whole different path. And what it did is it made it to where I put so much accountability around my prospecting. I had checks on the wall that if I didn't prospect, and some of you certainly heard the story of when I didn't show up on time, and I had to go, you had to plan 7 days in advance for time off, and a check came down. And some of you know certainly John Hunter, and John Hunter came, and in fact, those shoes remind me just a little bit of it. They're about that color, Aiden. And he came back in, and I think I've told you that. And he wrote inside the middle part, those are flat, but if you have a little heel, and he said compliments of George Morris. And he walked around with these new shoes because I didn't show up and prospect like I said I was going to. And I had checks on the wall. And then I got it to where I not only did I have to put in the hours, I had to actually put in the appointments. And I put $1,000, this is over 20 years ago, that if I didn't set 8+ appointments. So I'd find myself prospecting on a Saturday night, a Saturday morning, a Friday night. But I made sure, but this was the first year that I made over $300,000. And I lost 3 accountability checks, each of them for $100. And it was the best $100 I'd spent because I got serious about what it took. Well, so all of a sudden, the very plan that I put in place, I actually achieved it, and I beat it by 2 transactions. I had a goal for 52 and I sold 54 homes. And that's really just kind of, it opened my eyes to this idea that if you will put the discipline and the accountability in place, most of you can set appointments. You may think, oh, I don't know. No, it just depends on how long you're willing to prospect until you do. I don't think there's anybody in here who can. You may say, well, yeah, but I don't know if I want to prospect for 3 or 4 hours. Well, then you may not set an appointment. So I got it to the point where it didn't matter how long it took me. I was going to set an appointment every single day. And it became my #1 focus, which I know I've talked about. But I look at this. And so as time went on, and then, by the way, that story goes where Jennifer said that. And then it was about April or May of that year. And I had a ton of deals under contract. And there's a story to that, because out of 9 of those deals, 7 of them went out of contract in a 40-hour period. And the very next day I hear this behind me, and I look behind me, and it's my assistant. And I said, what? And they said, I can't believe you're prospecting. I said, what do you mean? 7 of your deals just fell apart. And here you are prospecting right at 8:30 in the morning the next day. Yep. And here's what's so funny about that. Out of all of those transactions, they all came back together in 48 hours. And I still prospected that day. Now, question is, how many of you would prospect? You get a lot of business, you don't prospect. Businesses fall apart, you don't prospect. You're going to have excuses all day long as to why you don't prospect. But you got to, or you don't feed the machine. So that same day when all those deals, or that same month when all those deals ended up closing, Jennifer, we're sitting at a light over on Van Winkle and Highland Drive, where it's a little screwbally. I remember sitting there, and she puts her hand on my hand and she says, can I ask you a question? And I said, sure. And she's like, sure, promise you won't be mad. I promise I won't be mad. So you've heard this. And I said, no, I'm not going to be mad. I said, actually, I'm getting irritated by you not asking the question. But I remember saying that. She said, well, I've just never seen you do what you're doing. I just have to ask you, are you doing it legally? I'm being serious, because I made $95,000, Kelly, in a single month. Well, she had never seen me do that. I'd talk about it. I'd have 2 weeks where I did, some of this really well, but I finally figured out that the real thing that was stopping me was this accountability and what I was supposed to be doing every day. And the thing that was also interesting is that I started to find my weaknesses. And that's why this number 9 is so important to me, because I started to realize there is guys, you listen to my morning meeting messages, right? There is nothing, what? Nothing, what? What do I say? Nothing you can't learn, and what? You can't do in this business. So once I figured that out, I realized, wait a second here. What is my plan? Now you could go to the front desk and from Sherry get the fancy little thing, but I've just found if I'm constantly getting really clear on what I'm supposed to be doing and what I want to be doing, well, my goodness gracious, great things happen. Extraordinary things happen when I'm clear on what I want and I start executing on it. You know, we talk about this law of attraction, but I'm a bigger believer in the law of action, which is, right, if you can get your mind right, you can get your emotions right, and you can get your actions right, it's amazing what you can attract to yourself. I think it's a combination of all of it. But then mystical things happen because on Saturday night, Saturday, by the way, was 20 years to the day that I bought Realty Executives. I am sitting at dinner, the Salt Lake Country Club. I'm sitting at dinner and Jennifer says these words. You know, I said, you know, it's been 20 years today, 20 years. And she's like, do you ever talk to Robert Fillmore? I said, no. Robert Fillmore was who owned Realty Executives. You remember him.
Sure.
And he's retired. He retired in his mid-50s and he's somewhere in his 70s now. And so I walked downstairs to go. We just got done playing golf Saturday evening, washing. I'm like waiting for this bathroom that who knows was in it. No one comes out of this bathroom. So I'm like, fine, I'll just go downstairs and go use. I mean, I'm sitting there waiting forever. There must have been real problems in the bathroom. So I don't know. All right. Not my problems, but someone else's. And so I go downstairs and I come right around and guess who is standing in front of me? Robert Fillmore. And he looks at me, goes, oh my gosh. Of course, you know, huge embrace after I wash my hands because I just gone to the bathroom. I'm like, we're like elbow. And then but gave each other a big hug. And my point is I can't explain those things, but I do know in the game of real estate. And Jennifer was, of course, wondering if like what was going on with me, if I was like sick or falling in, right? And I come back and I go, you're not going to believe this. I go, you're not going to believe who I just saw. And I'm not kidding you. Less than 5 minutes before this, she had just asked. So I don't know that I can't explain that, Amy, but I can explain the fact that if you get your mindset right, your actions right, and your emotions right, man, everything comes together. And so just pay attention to this. Like, get serious about knowing where you're going. Get serious about the fact that, boy, if you got all that plan together, you know what you want, you know why you want it, you have some goals, you got your plan, and man, you get real accountable with that schedule. Just imagine what you could do. Or just think about it. Like, what could you really do? Well, it took a minute for someone to kind of call me on my stuff to say, why do you put these plans and goals together? Put something realistic together. You're probably not going to do it anyway. And that wasn't to be rude. It was to say, I don't want you to be disappointed every time you don't hit your goals. Well, the reason I wasn't hitting my goals is because I hadn't figured out how to be disciplined. Specifically in prospecting is the number one thing you have to be disciplined in. And if you don't figure that part out, then all of these plans and these goals, what you want, why you want, none of it will probably even happen. Not because you don't deserve it, but maybe there's a skill set. Maybe there's something you need to learn from the standpoint of how you prospect and what you do for prospecting. Because if you can do this part, everything else falls into place. Just remember, every day that you don't prospect, every day that you pull back from it, every day that you say, I'll do it tomorrow, is just one more day away from what you really want and the goals and the dreams that you have. That's the nature of the beast. So I would love to see any of this from you. I'd love to see a handwritten thing or email me, text me, because man, when you start declaring where you're going and this is the plan you got in place to, and is this a working document? Of course it is. You may find that you need 4 or 5 skills you got to focus on. But either way, I know you can do it because I'm convinced in this business that it's all about desire and hunger. It's not about ability. It's all about hunger and desire. It is not about your ability because there's nothing you can't learn. And if you can learn it and you can do it, then the issue is you, not the market. It's nothing else. But some of you will settle in on the idea that you've tried as hard as you can. And yet I can just tell you there's a whole other level if you'll keep going. Okay. Any thoughts, comments?
Awesome.
Okay, guys, fourth quarter. Like to see that. Okay. All right, here we go.